Tales from the Loop, episodes 6 through 8. So I made the mistake of watching 6, 7, and 8 back to back. I usually make a review video after I watch it to get my thoughts down, to make each one, respective for each episode. Again, I made the mistake of watching them all back to back, so they kind of melded together. So I'll have to give my review of them melded together. So these last 3 episodes, it kind of solidifies what I was thinking about this show. Some of my theories are completely wrong. Like, I suspected they were stuck in a space station, or that they were trapped in an asteroid, or that they were in another dimension. One episode they dealt with, one guy, used a device and got sucked into another dimension. So that did happen. And then he made it. I don't think he made it back, actually. Yeah, but at the end of that one, he was still in the other dimension. He didn't come back. So it showed dimensional travel. The suspicion I had with that the grandfather, the one that was in charge of the loop and designing it and building it, that he had somehow uploaded his consciousness into the loop. They didn't show that any of that happened. So unless there's a wild internet theory out there that I'll get to at the end of this, that may or may not be true, which is interesting to say the least. So there was the episode 7, which was good, explains how the father, it goes back to the original family of the father and the wife and the grandfather who founded the loop, and his daughter who he left the loop in charge of when he left. It explains how he lost his arm when he was a kid, and that he had gone out to this island, and then there were screeching noises heard from the island, and there's a monster on the island. So these boys are playing, and they row out there, and they leave. There's 3 of them, and they leave him out there all night. But he gets, I guess, to scare him, or kind of like a hazing ritual. But he gets bit by something and infected in his arm. So that sucks. He's infected, and then he hears the screeching, and then he thinks he sees the monster. And you see kind of the shape of the monster, and it has all these. At first, I thought it was a person. This is the first thing I thought on this episode was I thought that it reminded me of a Star Trek episode where Geordi LaForge goes down to a planet and gets bit by this thing, and then it alters his genetic code and turns him into this monster-looking thing, and they barely get him back in time to revert him back to normal. That's literally what it reminded me of. I thought that's what was going to happen to this kid when he got infected. That he would, slowly begin to turn into one of these screeching things. Like, I didn't automatically assume it was an evil creature. It was kind of scary looking. And then when it tried to talk, I figured it was trying to communicate and screeching. And he, of course, he attacked it right away with a shock. It's almost like a cattle prod, like a shocking device he had with him. So he shocked it and was like, bang. I think it was just trying to help him or reach out or for companionship or who knows. But so his friends come back the next day, and he's hollering, and they pull him back. He passes out. He's in the hospital, and they've had to amputate his arm because the thing, whatever it was, bit him. Snake bite, maybe. It was a really fast snake. It was hard to see what that was. Water moccasin that swam away in the water really fast. I think it's a snake bite is what happened. They didn't explain it too much or show it too much. So I think that's what they imply. So he doesn't have an arm, but his grandfather who founded the loop, or his father who founded the loop, builds in this robot arm. So then it flashes forward 30 years, and he's thinking about how he lost his arm, I think, or he's dreaming about it. And so I think he's playing with his old radio, and he hears the screeching again from the radio. So he thinks it's still out there. He decides to travel back out there to see if it's still there. And of course it is. It is still out there. And it's had some damage done to it and it's missing an arm. And he goes out there at the end to, I guess, make peace with it. It's a robot. It's like a robot person. And they explain, he goes to talk to his mom about it. I think it's his mom. It was his father's wife, so it could be his mom. She's really reluctant and doesn't want to talk about it. She finally gets her to talk about it, and how she talks about that it was like a child, that people didn't understand what it was, and that they would have been, people are mean to things that are different. And so that's why, it was exiled onto that island. And that she mentions that it was the first. So, of course, my mind immediately thinks, oh, well, if he's the first, did he make more of them? So I was trying to figure out if we've seen anything, in the previous episodes that were more of them. Are there more android like robots we've seen, or been like an AT-AT walker looking thing, or the crusher that helps crush the junkyard? So we get to that, and then which again, more of that is explained. It's either the end of this or the next episode. It might be the same episode. Again, they all run together because I watched them all at once. The finale episode, it was really good, but it was a mind twister at the end. So the boy goes looking for his mom. He discovers that his brother is trapped in the robot. The consciousness of his brother is trapped in the robot. He wants to go to find his mom so she'll fix it, because she's in charge of the loop, so she should be able to fix it. But they go on an adventure, like through the woods. They're playing soccer. Some weird things happen. Another robot attacks them. I couldn't understand or figure out why that robot attacks them. I don't know if it had orders to keep people away from that certain area. I don't know if it had orders from, programming from the lady who runs the loop, because it's her son trying to go into that area. I don't know. I understand. But it tried to keep them from going into that area, is what I think happened. I think it was protecting the area. And it attacked the brother robot, and it like damaged him pretty badly. But he finally stopped it. But he lost, almost looked like he lost a battery pack or a gyro or something. My estimation was he lost a battery pack, and he began to slowly lose power. Which again, later, I don't know why they didn't put a new battery pack or try to fix it. I don't know. So the robot collapses. Well, he sees the city off in the distance where he thinks his mom is, but instead of going there, he turns around to come back. And his brother, the robot, has collapsed. So because whatever happened, the damage from the fight, is it the battery pack, whatever happened. So he almost does kind of like a funeral cairn, right? He lays out these pine cones around it. So before that, though, he crosses a stream that is frozen. It's like a frozen stream, like the water. It's nice and warm outside. The water's frozen. And they cross it. Like even the robot walks across it. And it's like solid. So it's either ice isn't strong enough to support that type of, it looks like a 2-ton robot. So when the kid gets back to town, when he looks behind him after he passes it, the stream is running water. And then this part baffled me. That part didn't. That part kind of baffled me. Can kind of be explained, but he takes the soccer ball and throws it in the water, and it kind of goes down the water a little bit, and then it ends up back at the beginning of the stream and comes back to him. So I honestly could not understand that part, and still don't understand that part of it. Like, if he is stuck in a time loop, why would the ball appear before the spot where he threw it? Again, that part's completely baffling to me. He gets back to the city, and it's 30 years later, because his mom is old and she has gray hair, but she's still running the loop. And he comes up and he finds her, and she says, "I waited for you." His brother's all grown up now. The father has already passed away. I mean, it's kind of a sad ending, but again, just trying to figure out, is he stuck in a time bubble? And if he was, why would that freeze the water? Like he wasn't frozen in time, because then he would have grown old, and they wouldn't, like nothing else would have. That's not what happened. So I'm still at a loss to figure out exactly what happened. But somehow he got thrown forward in time, or time moved faster around him for everyone else. Like a lot faster, and moved. But again, if that was the case, people, if they would have went into the woods, would have seen him, because time for him was moving much slower, like at an event horizon or something. Again, it's very difficult for me to understand any of what that happened there. So, and that episode was directed by Jodie Foster. So I don't know if it's the famous Jodie Foster or just another. I doubt it's some other newer director using the name Jodie Foster. Could be, but it was kind of heartfelt. It was neat. The time travel aspect is fascinating. It shows him at the very end, all grown up, going back to his mom's old house, and it's different now, and he's all grown up. And the intimation is that he's in charge of the loop now. If it's still going on, I don't know. But it did get renewed for a second season, so more of these stories are coming, which I'm thankful for, that I can try to analyze and figure out. Again, all the secrets aren't unlocked yet. So I love the show. It's great. It reminded me of the Twilight Zone. That's all I got to say about this. But if you like my content, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. Thank you for interacting.